All right, all right, all right. Welcome back. Welcome back to the channel. Here is another late show for you, live from Los Angeles with your host, Young Brando. We're going to talk watches. We're going to talk the new releases by Parmigiani Fleurier, and also a little surprise that I got for you right next to me here. There's going to be some different kind of action on the channel over the next few months. I'm very excited about it, and I'm very excited to announce it for you for the first time here tonight on the live stream. Um, I'm going to start with just talking about Parmigiani Fleurier a little bit and talk about their new releases as well. This is not new to me, at least, and to the audience of this channel, because we have talked about the new Tonda PF automatic as one of the entries for the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie in Geneva, one of the entries and now nominees for the Grand Prize of Horology. And since they actually had the gala recently in Geneva, where people took a look at some of these watches, they went ahead and announced a whole new line, basically. At first glance, of course, it's simply a smaller sized version of the Tonda PF, but it's not really something less, but simply a different kind of watch when you actually zoom in and look at it. And that much should have been clear to us, because they did have a photo of the case back in that set they submitted for the nomination, which has, of course, a full rotor. I've been talking a lot about Fleurier as a watchmaking town, both about Chopard and the Schäufele family, as well as the work that Michel Parmigiani did for them, which was to design that caliber 196, which is a micro rotor caliber, and the kind of caliber that Parmigiani Fleurier uses across their lineup, but certainly for the Tonda PF to begin with. Parmigiani's own version of the micro rotor caliber has slightly less power reserve than the one that Chopard kept developing and improving. Chopard has, I think, by now 60 plus 65 hour of power reserve, if I'm not mistaken, in certain iterations of their caliber 96, whereas the PF 703 that powers the Tonda PF series, which is a very thin and beautiful caliber that beats at the lower frequency of 3 hertz, which equals to 21,600 vibrations per hour, has a power reserve of 2 full days at 40 amps. Now, this is the standard Tonda PF, which has a 40-hour power reserve, comes in different case materials and different kinds of configurations, of course, but this is kind of the flagship model of that line, with the dates at 6 o'clock, the skeletonized hands, the platinum bezel that is also decorated with this coin edge that is fluted in a much finer way than the standard Rolex, for example. And remember, it took Rolex quite some time to actually release in some sort of serial production the fluted version of their platinum bezel. So that's nothing to sneeze at. And it does add different a bit of visual interest to the watch for sure in this stainless steel version. I think in a way the real highlight of the dial is that guilloche decoration that they call grain d'orge, which simply means barley grain. Doesn't sound as sexy in English, I'm sure, but nevertheless is, I think, a great description of that unique pattern that they have developed. And that's really fine in the sense that it adds a certain dimensionality to the face of the watch without uh, being really overbearing. It's a very subtle and graceful decoration that does not shift attention too much. And to me, again, when you have that sort of beautiful texture to the dial, that's one way in which my mind justifies the existence of skeletonized hands, which I otherwise honestly don't quite get. Um, Not saying that they need to be filled in with some sort of luminous material because this is supposed to be a sports or sports chic watch. But I feel like in a lot of watches that use these sorts of skeletonized hands, you could simply go, in this case, with alpha hands, except when you have something that is as fine, as elegantly granular, and as visually appealing as this, in which case you should in fact skeletonize the hands and give us as much of it as possible. And that's one of the reasons that I appreciate the Tonda PF automatic a little more, because it does not actually have a date window. It does away with the date indicator on the dial, which gives you this uninterrupted surface that is beautifully laid out. Skeletonized hands, again, matching the case material here, which is pink gold. Um, the PF logo at 12 o'clock in the same way applied. And you have, instead of those abbreviated index markers, in this case, you have abbreviated diamonds, which adds a further elegant touch. And I have not yet had the pleasure of seeing this particular model in the flesh, but I really do love this particular shade of the red. Very deep burgundy, blood red, as it were. It's a beautiful, beautiful color. And the great thing about this particular watch right here is it is reduced size, right? As we have talked about many times before, the integrated bracelet design um, can actually wear bigger than what you see on paper. So some people had misgivings about the dimensions of the case, about the 40 millimeter diameter. I don't think it's really that big. I think this is a watch that wears really well because it's also quite slim. The thickness is 7.8 in the standard Tonda PF with the micro rotor. In this case, in the reduced size version of it, um, you actually have a thickness of 8.6. So it's a little thicker because of the addition of that full rotor, right? But you have still a very balanced uh, case, a very balanced design that flows quite nicely. So those those of you who were perhaps looking for a different dimension, a different kind of case, something perhaps that's a little more evenly proportioned between the 36 millimeter diameter and 8.5 and change millimeter thickness, you have exactly what you want here. And thankfully, because this was the only model that we were introduced at the Grand Prix, there is actually a whole line of them coming, including the one in steel, which has those abbreviated diamonds on the dial and a warm gray dial, as they put it. And also a silver sand dial, which is stainless steel with this lighter tone of gray, which looks quite unique compared to the other shades of gray they have been using for Tonda PF, and has, I think, 6 millimeter presents also a very interesting option when it comes to the price point as well, because it's actually a little bit cheaper than the standard Tonda PF. But let's go through the prices as we are wrapping our minds around this little revelation here of the Tonda PF automatic. So the pink gold with the ruby or deep ruby dial, as they called it, is 49,500 Swiss francs, which roughly comes down to the same amount. Dollars. In stainless steel with that warm gray dial that has the applied that is right under 25K Swiss francs or US dollars, however you want to look at it. And finally, the silver sand version of the Tonda PF automatic is 18,500, which, if you compare it to the 41 millimeter version with that charcoal gray barley grain guilloche dial, that is 21,000. So if you have been looking for a reduced size Tonda PF, somehow found the date window a little interruptive, visually unappealing, or you simply didn't have the need for it, you were looking for something that fits a little sleeker, perhaps a little more discreetly, or simply with better proportions for your own wrist size, now you have an option in Tonda PF automatic. And again, you are simply getting a different kind of watch, because this one has an automatic caliber, has a self-winding caliber with a full rotor. It has a higher beat. It beats at 4 hertz, and even then has a longer power reserve at 60 hours. So
in some ways, you are getting, in fact, more of a watch. And even though the Tonda PF automatic in pink gold with that deep ruby diamond set dial is now one of the official nominees for the grand prize in the ladies category at GPHG. This is obviously a unisex watch, just as the other version, the larger version, if you ask me, is a very unisex watch, especially with its sleekness and thin case profile. But there you have it. You have an option now with a smaller case diameter if you wanted something more discreet, something that is somehow proportionally more appealing to you, more appropriate for your wrist size, or rather simply more apt for your taste in watches. St. Peter, hey man, lovely to see you. Lovely to see you. Peeping time. I, you know, I'm a peeping time. You know me that I'm a Royal Oak fanboy. So when it comes to these sorts of watches, I like not having a second sand. Actually, I think why interrupt that dial for what reason exactly, right? You and I know that this is a mechanical watch. I never cared about the passing of seconds, to be honest. I appreciate chronometry as an art. Really, I do like the aspiration to precision, to an accurate display of time in mechanical watches. But at this level of luxury, where you're doling out about uh, you know, $20,000 and more for a luxury watch, I don't mind it. And once again, I think ultimately it comes down to the fact that I really like this style. And the less interrupted it is, the less you have on it, the better. And that's the reason, by the way, from a design perspective, that they use these abbreviated index markers throughout, right? They obviously could have gone with something that's more elongated, right? And certainly, with the diamonds, you might say, hey, are they skimping on the baguette cut there? Why are they doing that? But that came a little later, especially with a, I thought the tourbillon had it as well, but anyway, that came later. The diamonds, they always had these abbreviated markers, and it's with the same intention, right? So I do appreciate it actually. The first generation of Gerald Janta designs for the Royal Oak, for the Nautilus, did not have a second sand, as you well know. Of course, I don't even need to tell you. Whereas, of course, the Ingenieur, the integrated bracelet watch at Janta designed for IWC, which, as its name announces, is supposed to be an engineer's watch, is supposed to be a more tool-like, more utilitarian watch. In that case, I find it quite fitting that you would have a centrally deployed seconds hand. In this case, for this particular segment, and with this design especially, the particular dial pattern, the barley grain pattern, makes me want as much real estate freed up as possible because it is quite gorgeous. That's why I'm fine with skeletonized hands, which are usually the scourge of my existence. Um, I'm fine with the abbreviated index markers because it again uh, frees up even more space on the dial. I also love the fact that they use that medallion for their logo rather than a fully written out script. And my problem is less with the name. Some people have a problem still with the name Parmigiani. I don't mind it because it is the last name, after all, of a very important watchmaker. And when it comes to Parmigiani Fleurier, by the way, I know they now have a new CEO, but I want to talk a little bit about their story because it's quite interesting, and I'll pull up the page in a second. Um, so now Parmigiani Fleurier is led by Guido Terreni, who used to be head of watches at Bulgari. And I think for now almost 2 years, he has been the CEO of Parmigiani Fleurier. Parmigiani Fleurier actually has behind them the Sandoz Foundation, the Sandoz Family Foundation. And Sandoz, if the name sounds familiar, comes exactly where you expect it to come from. Uh, it was actually a foundation established by the heir of the Sandoz family, which is, of course, a big pharmaceutical company based in Basel, and that now goes by the name Novartis. Edouard Marcel Sandoz, who was the heir to this to these resources, and who was also a very accomplished artist, a painter and sculptor himself, decided to actually use some of these funds for horology. And over the years, he through this foundation has actually uh, been the patron of establishing that entire ecosystem in Fleurier that has given us so much, even beyond uh, Parmigiani as a brand, and even beyond Parmigiani and Chopard and Ferdinand Berthoud. The case makers, Les Artisans Boîtiers, is sustained by the Sandoz Family Foundation. The movement manufacturer Vaucher, which supplies movements among others for Parmigiani, for Hermes, and more, is sustained by Sandoz. Uh, Atocalpa is sustained by Sandoz. And finally, um, right, Quadrants et Habillage is by them. So basically, if it weren't for the Sandoz Family Foundation, you would not have this entire um, ecosystem of um, of a case maker, movement maker, dial maker, and everything else within that one town. So there you go. If you if you had something against big pharma, I still do, but at least they have done one good thing for watch enthusiasts, and that was to establish and really put on the map Fleurier as a watchmaking town. So thank you, Sandoz Family Foundation, and thank you by proxy, Sandoz SA and Novartis today for giving us Parmigiani Fleurier and others. It's really a pleasure to see how they have been growing and how they're putting themselves on the map, because I think Parmigiani Fleurier, having been established by Michel Parmigiani under the patronage of the Sandoz Family Foundation, has been doing great things for the longest time. I think their dress watches, that case design that they preserve even now, I think is very lovely. You see this more or less tonneau shape that has these accentuated, even italicized, you might say, lug structure. Somehow was always appealing to me, especially in Tonda 1950, which I think makes a great dress watch in any configuration, but especially in this plain plain way. This is the white gold version. Hey Corrado, nice to see you, man. And Peeping Time says the skeletonized hands have grown on me. So yeah, I've always liked, for example, their simple dress watches which come just on a leather strap. Um, these have been, I think, more or less discontinued, pushed out of the lineup, which means that you can a lot of times find them for incredible bargains. The watch outlet used to have tons of them with the white dial, with the black dial, with black dial and a diamond bezel, of which our friend Basil's Bezels got one of the last examples. They also have produced a few years ago a version of it with the meteorite dials, with this beautiful slice of that meteorite, so beautiful extraterrestrial stone dial that is galvanized and basically made into this very deep and beautiful shade of blue. They had those in titanium, a beautifully polished titanium case. They had those also in pink gold. Those go for a little bit of a premium, but still way, way off compared to their list prices. So, all in all, they have always uh, made these very reliable, high horological watches with beautiful finishes and unique designs that perhaps did not appeal, did not hit right, perhaps because of the branding, but I think a lot of times because of the unique design language that didn't really make any concessions. And I remember reading a review of these watches in particular by the great Jack Forster, who in fact made the argument that Parmigiani Fleurier didn't quite make a splash because they lacked an icon. And ultimately, the Tonda PF precisely was released a couple of years ago to become that icon. I'm not sure I can uh, be that lavish and that extravagant with my phrase, but at least now Parmigiani Fleurier has a watch that's very desirable to many collectors, that sells right at or slightly above or slightly under list price rather than at a 40-50% discount or even more. And in fact, they have built now an entire lineup of watches around uh, a sportier take of that Tonda case, where they have the more classic and chic elements of Tonda PF in time and dates, in GMT, in chronograph, in even annual calendar, skeletonized, etc. But they also have, of course, a tourbillon version, which seems to be a must, a flying tourbillon at that. But they also have now the Tonda GT, which is actually, as we discussed before, a gorgeous sports chronograph with uh, predictable panda dial layout perhaps, but unique elements of its own that make it seem even sportier than a lot of other sports chronographs worthy of the name in the market. I particularly love the big date display at 12 o'clock and the discreet way they have managed to squeeze in that display for the month within the seconds dial at 3 o'clock as well, which is a relatively unusual setup to begin with, and especially on rubber and in stainless steel, I think they offer a very interesting option to whatever else is out there. And on rubber, basically, these steel chronographs are at the same price point as the time and dates version of the Tonda PF micro roller. So within their own lineup, it makes a lot of sense to go for something like this, right? Especially if you are, again, I think the comparison here is not just any other chronograph, because you are really getting a high horology watch in terms of finish, in terms of design, in terms of the horological uh, achievement of the movement, which integrates onto onto that self-winding, the function of an annual calendar, and ultimately, um, finally, I should say, also that gorgeous guilloche decoration on the dial as well, which is radial around the minutes track, and then has this pyramidal pattern for the rest of the dial, and of course also radial for the subdials as well. I think, although I'm having a little difficulty seeing, perhaps at least on the Burgundy version, perhaps it's simply no, the subdials. Excuse me, the subdials are just solid. They're just sunken into that pyramid guilloche dial, and you have this radial decoration for the minutes track. I think it's just for everything that it encapsulates into a single case, into that dial. It is a very well designed piece of horology. Has 100 meters water resistance, which is respectable and the least that we can expect really um, from a sports watch, right? Let's be honest. At 42 millimeters, it's not small or discreet, but for a sports chronograph, it's quite predictable as well. Again, it's under 14 millimeters, not too thin, not too thick, not too large, not too small. Everything is as it should be, um, and I think it offers a great alternative with that combination of rubber and steel, which is not always a default option at this particular segment. Um, and they have a variety of options, right? You know, you can in fact go for something like a precious metal, which actually is a higher beating caliber at 5 hertz, or they have this interesting limited edition that's still quite widely available that uses black on black with orange contrast, which I think is very attractive and quite unique. And again, once again, inspires that kind of racing heritage with that contrast of orange against black on a dashboard. It's I think these are great pieces of design. And yes, going back to the new Tonda PF automatic, I think the jam setting looks great from the pictures. I'm sure we can take perhaps a closer look on the GPHG page. There should be a few different different shots there. I think because they were presenting some of their final nominees. I wonder. No, they have just used the stock pictures there. So let's see if there are any third party pictures that can perhaps give us some live photographs and some wrist shot action. There we go. Monochrome has and this is the standard steel version without the diamond set dial, which I think is very elegant, by the way. Um, I don't know. Maybe if I can't somehow satisfy my mid-sized uh, Royal Oak hankering down the road, this can certainly be a great option. But I think I will eventually, when the time is right, go for something new vintage. I just have to be patient and continue learning, continue exploring, and continue saving. I think this looks great as well. The warm gray steel. And just to once again emphasize, the reduced sized version uh, preserves in the stainless steel examples, the two stainless steel models, that fluted coin edge platinum bezel as well. So it's again the play of contrasts. I think make it really beautiful. I like the bracelet design. It's not as multifaceted and uh, as beautiful to me as the Royal Oak bracelet, but chances are it wears a little better. The few times I tried on the watch, even though the bracelet wasn't sized for me, it was a very nice feeling. I know at some point they will come up with rubber bracelet options, rubber band options for these as well. So that is always nice to have. I know they have by now versions of the larger Tonda um, with leather bands, and that's another great option for people who wish to have that. But I think really this is a great integrated bracelet design, and it fits really well. It plays with those contrasts between polished and grain brushed surfaces, as well as between again steel and platinum, both in terms of the coin edging and polishing there as well, mirror polishing, and ultimately between the very integrated design of the watch and that slight contrast the dial introduces to a largely monochromatic appearance, right? Because as you look at this, especially in this gray sand or light gray version, what you have ultimately is a very almost severely monochromatic watch. But you have enough contrast between different parts of the bracelet, between different facets of the case, between the platinum and stainless steel, and then between the case and the guilloche decorated dial. I think ultimately it's really a great design that's also very coherent. And in a way, it really came into its own, I think, in this 36 millimeter version, which happens to be also the most accessible, uh, relatively speaking, right? We are still talking about $18,500. Nevertheless, it looks like an extremely wearable watch, perfect dimensions, 60 hours of power reserve, barely more than 8.5 millimeters thick. So you don't need Tim Mosso to tell you that it slides under every cuff. And it is cuffing season, so Parmigiani Fleurier can be a very nice gift for your loved one, whether they are man or woman or anything else in between and on the spectrum. Beautiful piece. Thank you, Jake. Thank you so much for your support, man. I really appreciate you, and it does make a huge difference. Peeping Time says the limited edition of the Tonda GT is really nice. I agree. I completely agree. Um, let's scroll back to that. Jesus, got stuck there. All right, let's see. Yes, the limited edition of the Tonda GT chronograph, I think, is really stunning. It's beautiful. It's sporty. Uh, it's it adds that dash of orange to the dial, which inspires on watches. It always inspires a sporty watch, anyways, right? We all love these examples of divers, especially with full orange dials, orange accents, orange straps. there's that nautical connotation always, but of course here it's more fitting with the racing chronograph vibe of the watch, which is kind of the dashboard appearance of orange accents against the black. And it's very discreet, but also very evocative. Um, Speaking of things orange, let's talk a little bit about our surprise and about what we are going to have over the next few months on the channel. I think this will appeal to each and every one of you, and I want you to have um, a little bit of hey, I exactly when I needed you, Meech. How are you?
Can you hear me, Lord? Lord, can you hear
Y-
me?
Yes, sir. Is this this is not Meech though?
Lord, can you hear
Yes,
me?
sir.
I just got this. I just ran into town and got a new headset and picked up some scratch offs. I picked up in the special, on the Hungry Man TV dinners. I picked up a couple of those as well.
Thank you, man. It's Mike. Is that Mike the Snake? The Snake? Is that who am I talking to? Yeah.
Yeah, Lord. I just want to say, Parmigiani, it's one of my absolute grails. I think they're just absolutely beautiful. I've always wanted one. Ever since I lost my collection, went up in smoke just like my Pantera, along with my hopes and dreams. I definitely can see myself adding a Parmigiani. Absolutely beautiful watch.
Yeah, the what? Do you think you can wear your Parmigiani while eating a TV dinner? Would it be fitting, Mike?
I think so. Yeah. So see, I've got this air fryer now. It's I can dump all the contents I can dump all the contents of the TV dinner into the tray, and man, it works slick, man. It works slick.
All right, Meech.
Oh
Welcome
fuck!
back.
I can't keep doing that. Fuck! Oh fuck!
Well, you know that there is a God, there is karma, whatever you want to call it. It comes back to bite you, Meech.
Oh fuck, Lord! I already
Respect,
know where I'm going. I may as well have fun at this point.
respect your elders. So,
Lord,
Meech,
actually, bullshit aside, I was actually looking at a Parmigiani.
you were, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I will need your help with this little reveal, but let's go. Let's talk about what you were looking at first. But Full on John is generous to send these $2 my way. Thank you for your super chat. You down with LB? Yeah, you know me, young Brando. Thank you so much. Yes, Mitch, tell me which model were you looking at with Parmigiani?
I was looking at the entry level, the base model, if you will, Parmigiani, Tundra PF, the simple two-hander. So it does not come included with the Parmigiani cheese. You only get one meatball and a half a breadstick with this one. But yeah, I was looking at it, and I think it's kind of interesting.
We are talking about the classic model powered by the micro rotor movement, right? The 40 millimeter.
Yeah, that is correct.
The man size, the masculine version.
The men's size, absolutely, yes. I did hear that. I didn't even realize they came with a 36 mil. I guess that just came out. I did take a look at it briefly,
Yes,
and
sir.
I seen it did not have a date complication, so I wouldn't even pursue it regardless.
I love it. I love that you're a real fundamentalist, Meech. When you commit to something, you go all the way. So now you don't even wear watches without the date display, huh? Is that what it is?
No, not really. I mean, the whole principle of this Parmigiani would be to be able to wear it whenever and wherever. And if it, having it as pretty much as a daily beater, and then having it have a date complication on it would be kind of the creme de la creme, if you will. That way, I can just
What
kind of
was
keep
that?
all the Rolexes,
What
the
what
creme de la creme, if you will.
crème de
Uh,
la what? Crème de la
creme.
what?
God damn it, Lord! Now you make me actually think about it. Fuck me dead. But look, actually, I'm actually spending a little bit more time up in the Twin Cities. And there's a couple
Nice.
restaurants in South Minneapolis that I'd like to go to. Actually, I hear they serve actually great food, regardless of their situation.
Love it.
And up
Love it.
there, you
So
don't
so
really want to wear anything
just
flashy up there because Minneapolis is no
just
joke.
to yeah, just to understand. So since you are going to Twin Cities, you are feeling increasingly the need to pretend that you can speak French. Is that right? Once you step into the urban setting, you have to take on
Absolutely,
that pretension.
absolutely. Actually, just having a bit of a posh accent, having a
Right.
bit of a posh accent will get you very far.
I can teach you a few things about that. Yeah.
But no, actually, I mean, I think this would be a great, just a shitter watch, a daily shitter. Don't have to be worried about it. When I bring back entertainment to the hotels, I don't
You
really have
know,
to worry about if the watch is going to be missing because somebody knows what the fuck it is.
right. One of the things I will say about this, and one of the things that might be actually working with this new branding they have with the medallion logo and everything, one of the things that can work in their favor is how discreet this watch is. It's thin, it's sleek, it has great design elements, so it's eye-catching nonetheless, but not in a way where people would recognize it and go crazy about it. I mean, the Bulgari Octofinissimo is very eye-catching as well. Some people hate it, some people love it, but it still has the name Bulgari on the dial. So chances are, even an average punter who spots you will have something to think about seeing that name. Just like Cartier, it's like an elite jeweler, so the expectation is that it would be something. Whereas this looks great. You can still get kudos from people who know a little bit about watches, but no one else would know what you are wearing except, if they have a little bit of interest. It might be eye-catching, it might be interesting, but it won't catch interest in the wrong way, and the wrong kind of interest, let's put it this way.
The only problem, though, that I really have with it is it doesn't come with a rubber strap, and Parmigiani does not. How do I say this? Parmigiani will not supply a rubber strap for this particular watch, and I think it would actually look great on a black strap. I think the bracelets. I mean, I've handled them a little bit in person. I think the bracelet's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it inherently, I guess. But I just think this is one of the very few cases where rubbers would actually look better on this watch than the bracelet itself.
Honestly, you already have a kind of preview of it, even though it's a different case and it's a different dimension, different complication. But I mean, look at this one, for example. Imagine that this were
Right.
the standard Tonda PF on the rubber. I think it would look great, and I think eventually they will, because they now, for example, have them with these alligator leather straps, right?
Yeah, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Lord, but doesn't Hermes supply this, if I remember correctly, their leather straps? They're cheap
Yes,
and nasty
I think
leather straps.
I think that's still the case. It's still the case that Hermes makes them and then brands them, brands it with the PF stamp rather than their own branding.
See,
Yeah.
funny enough, I called Hermes and seen like if I could get like a strap made, and Hermes just kind of rolled it off their shoulders, saying, "Look, your only choices are to buy one of our watches or buy an Apple Watch strap. That's it. Which
Oh,
all
well,
right, fair enough.
look, I mean, when it comes to Hermes watch straps, you can't buy them online. They won't really be that helpful on the phone. You walk into the boutique with that particular watch for which you want to buy a strap. You know the lug width. If it's standard enough, I mean, this is an integrated bracelet watch, so they won't have anything for you. And unless you're an established customer, they won't bother to do anything custom for you either.
Well, that and it's also like a
But
3 hour drive
they
for me,
all
which is not worth my time.
right. Absolutely not. I'm not saying that you should, but just so our viewers know, if you are, for example, going for a Rolex with the standard, 39, 40 millimeter case with 20 millimeter lug width, you go with the watch. They have an entire stock, almost always, of 20 millimeter tapering down to 17 leather straps, entire trays of them. You just have to find the person in the watch section and ask nicely, look at least like what that what you're doing, and they will only help you then. And unfortunately, that's a certain approach to customer care and service that some French brands take. Goyard is kind of like that. They are not very helpful unless you're established customer with them. They're not going to sell you anything at first until you visit them in their boutique and open basically an account with them by making your first purchase. And then, certain doors start opening. I don't necessarily appreciate that approach. Again, I want to repeat that. But once you have your foot in the door, they're extremely helpful and they take care of you. So there's something good to be said about that too. Maldives sent a nice picture. Thank you, Maldives.
Funny enough,
I'll
though,
take a
you
look at that.
cannot find these. So I did call my good friends at Wixon's Jewelers of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Guys, check
Yes,
them
sir.
out. Greatest deals in all of America. Anyways, because they are actually an authorized dealer of Parmigiani, legitimate. And I did inquire about this piece, and he said, forget about it. He said, I'll
Wait,
put your name down on
wait,
the
wait,
wait
wait, wait.
list.
When it's Parmigiani, how do they say forget about it?
Oh, forget about it. Oh, Maron. But they said, we'll put your name down on the wait list. He said, though, we don't really get a whole lot of them in. He said, I've got plenty of the 42 mils, but he said, that particular model, he said, I don't really get. He said, I've maybe seen one in the last 5 months, which I thought was interesting. But I looked at them I tried to look for them pre-owned here on Chrono 24. There's not too many of them actually running around. And if you do find one that's heavily overpriced, like almost by like 10 grand,
Right.
which I wouldn't want to pay for, honestly. But
Yeah,
I digress.
I think Parmigiani is at this threshold. It's interesting because it's not. They're not as boutique and as as niche as, let's say, Laurent Ferrier or even Chapek. OG Hash Hockey asks Parmigiani versus Chapek. I will get back to this question right away.
All day. Chapek all day.
Right away. But let me say this first. So they produce a little more than a lot of these niche and boutique brands. And they have a network of authorized dealers, but I think now there's a little bit of interest for them. I think they're already having a hard time catching up with the interest when it comes to certain models. And Tonda PF is now their flagship. So that's the hardest one to catch up. This is the mock-up that Maldives
it looks
to my
great.
mailbox. It does.
Look how clean that looks.
Yeah, it looks amazing, actually.
But Lord, let me ask you something. Is the interest in this Parmigiani Fleurier, is it the interest due to the fact that there's actually legitimate interest in the brand, or is there interest because Rolex has been absolutely shafting the punters here for the last, I don't know, 2.5 years? essentially, making it almost like the rest of the brands are kind of following suit, essentially. So is there kind of that interest? Like, well, if I can't get Rolex, I might as well find something else.
I think I will say this, just to be absolutely fair to all aspects of the discussion. When certain brands catch on and more, a lot to do with it just being about that brand, right? Ultimately, I think stars need to align. Like, think of Vacheron Constantin, for example. If there wasn't an entire hype about integrated bracelet, stainless steel sports watches to begin with from high horology makers, if the Nautilus and Royal Oak caught on in the mainstream and basically became unavailable completely, if at that time Vacheron Constantin did not have their new generation sports watch, which had come out just a year before, basically 2016, the most recent generation. If Vacheron Constantin wasn't also the longest standing, continuously operating watchmaker, if it didn't actually stick to their guns with certain standards, Geneva Seal movements, this sort of very respectful and careful approach to their own traditions and their archive of designs, I don't think they would have spilled over, at least in a little way, into the mainstream like they have. So yes, it is sheer luck at a certain point. It is good fortune that these sorts of brands are finally making a break, because by and large, also when it comes to Parmigiani and Czapek, there's more interest than ever for independent brands, and that has a lot to do with the unavailability of mainstream brands too, of course. But they have to get certain things right first to even be appealing in some level. If I mean, there's why didn't GP ever catch up in a real way, right? Why aren't people going crazy about why aren't people going crazy about Girard-Perregaux at this moment in time, for example?
Because they're an AP ripoff. Honestly, they're a terrible AP knockoff. I mean, that's the general conclusion here. If you show somebody an automized Royal Oak and then show them a Girard-Perregaux shortly after, they'll say, "Oh, well, this is kind of a ripoff, isn't it?" And Zenith kind of did the same thing with the new Zenith Defy. They ripped off the AP logo. I mean, or not logo, the design, in a matter of speaking. And I think that's why when brands do shit like that, that's what makes them even more hated. And Girard-Perregaux didn't, as you said, doesn't have a massive fan base the way it is. I mean, and given that their flagship is a fake AP Royal Oak knockoff, I don't think they'll ever actually become desirable.
So let's get back to OG Hash Hockey's question: Parmigiani or Czapek? So we have to specify the question. I already wanted to ask you. I'm guessing you're asking PF Tonda versus Czapek Antarctique, which is a very good discussion. If you're talking about the entire line of options, for me, it becomes really confusing. And I might have different answers for that. So I will ask you to clarify, but let's pretend that we are talking just about these two models, which are the PF Tonda, which we were just talking about anyways, and the Czapek Antarctique, which is actually at least category of a watch, as the Tonda PF. You had a very easy answer to this for whatever reason. So let's.
I don't even know a whole lot about Czapek, but I know Czapek is more exclusive and they're more expensive. So I mean, by that alone, by that default, I would just say Chapec's probably the more superior watch, honestly.
Well, Chapec is actually priced more or less exactly the same at this segment, but they are not available anymore. Um, Completely sold out, and I think the wait list is not going to open until next year. Um, the reason I said they're pretty similar is because they're both integrated bracelets, mainly stainless steel sports chic watches with beautifully made guilloche decorated dials, with the date at 6 o'clock, and both of them actually sport micro rotor movement. So there's a lot of similarity and a lot of comparability between the two watches. Aesthetically speaking, honestly, I think I really like the Chapec a little more. Um, Chapec's bracelet design that incorporates their uh, initial, I think it's at once a very simple yet just a brilliant idea. I know the name itself, also with its historical legacy, is a little too close to Patek. So some people will never get around that. I understand. For me, it's not such a problem. The case design is not entirely original. So it's not, this is more in the category of Laureato, and even the Chopard Alpine Eagle than a Bulgari Octofinissimo or A. Lange und Söhne Odysseus. I don't want to say it's entirely derivative, but it's not so original either, right? You can certainly see the outlines of a Nautilus case, at least at the 3 o'clock side of the case. So I think ultimately, from an aesthetic perspective, I think I would go with the Antarctique. All things said and done, I don't know if we are looking at the entire lineup, I might have a different thing to say. But in either case, they both have also the two options, right? There is now Antarctique S, so there is an option that's 38.5 millimeter in case size compared to the 40.5. Whereas in Parmigiani, they have 40 for the full version and 36 for the smaller sized option. So really, you're talking about apples and apples. So great choice for that discussion. It is a very difficult choice. For me, it's Chapec by a neck. It's a hard question to answer. OG Ashrock, he says GP with big discount, Parmigiani versus Chapec exclusive. Yeah, and Chapec has that playing for them. I think they're made in lesser numbers, smaller quantities. They're always more exclusive for that. I actually am a huge fan of their of their kit that will come on the screen in a second, because it really has like beautiful dials. My God, man,
It seems like with Chapec, you can flex on the punters more. Gerard Perigo, that's not really a flex. That's something that's something you're embarrassed to wear. Honestly, you keep your sleeve rolled up when wearing a Gerard Perigo.
You're nasty and vicious, man. So this one, for example, that you can order, you don't have to go with those fleur de lis hands. I wouldn't anyways. I think it's a little too much. Um, and I know they're inspired by a certain tradition of watchmaking, the Chapek pocket watches. I understand, but if you look at it like this, where did it go? Right, this dial is amazing because it kind of combines uh, um, enamel baking and stamping and guilloche. Right, it's a guilloche design, but it's first stamped and then then enameled and then finished. So it's a beautiful dial, very deep blue. You can have your options to customize if you're ordering from scratch, and you get 7-day power reserve on this hand wound caliber. This is their standard dress watch, and you have small seconds at basically 7.5 o'clock. Very unique design, classical elements with a little bit of a modern touch. I think across the lineup, Chapek has a lot of interesting things going on. They are more recognizably conservative in a way, even though you can introduce to them your own touch in many cases. I think Chapek has a lot going for them, and I think they are gonna continue to rise through the ranks. Same thing with Parmigiani, but I think Chapek is in that sweet spot. As I said, there is something to be said about independents that produce a very limited number of watches, have a more one-to-one connection with their customer. They really do take care of you. They really do take certain special requests into account. Parmigiani can tell you easily, go away when you ask for a rubber strap. Chapek, I'm sure they can contact one of their suppliers and have any of their models on a rubber strap for you. They would have a problem with that. I know Paul Silesius, one of our community members, swears by them. He already has waiting on the delivery of at least another Chapek, and he really, really does love them. And OG Hash Hockey as Big Mac, $100,000 GPs are on sale for $3,600. Yeah. Look, I mean, again, when it comes to certain, hi, welcome back, man. When it comes to brands like that, on the secondary market, they can present a good deal. So if you are actually a big fan of the Laureato, I won't say don't get it. If you find a good deal on it on the secondary market, and trust me, if you wait until next year, these prices will continue dipping, especially on brands like that and on watches like that. So if you're patient, if you're patient, by all means. I think, again, coming back to this direct comparison, there's a little more visual interest in terms of the architecture when it comes to the movement of Chapek. Again, comparing between the equals, the two micro rotor movements. And I think with the loom and everything, it's a sportier watch as well. Whereas I think Tonda PF has a little more classic, elegant touch to it. What do you think finally, Big Meech? You are still siding with Chapek?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it seems like Chapek actually gives you more respect. Like I said, it's more exclusive. It's a little bit more expensive. You can flex on the punters with it. Like Parmigiani, Chapek just sounds rich. It sounds luxurious. Parmigiani. It sounds like a brand of fucking bolognese. So I'd have to stick with Chapek 100%.
Yeah, I think, look, next year, if they become available, and I still kind of, I do, in a way, regret not placing an order for it, because that was one of the things I was considering when I was getting the GMT Master 2 and the Reverso. And I'm wearing the Reverso now. I'm very happy about it. But at that time, they still had it open, and they had this option, which was beautiful. And I think once the order is open, they might reintroduce it as well. But you could choose the birth date of your watch, like as long as it was, let's say, 6 months to a year ahead of time. You could say, for example, oh, I want the watch on the same day as my birthday. I want them to start to build the watch on that day, 3 months ahead or 6 months ahead or a year ahead. And you would put down a deposit. I think it was a third, and get your money back, get your bill when the watch is built. So you pay in full and receive delivery of the watch. I think that was a beautiful system as well, and adds kind of that unique touch again among all the little customized option. You could have, you can have the 12, number 12 at 12 o'clock, or or these double index markers. I think there are a few different options for the hands. I know for a fact that you could choose an entire rhodium plated, red tipped or fully red for the seconds. You have a few different colors for the dial. I don't know if you can do date or no dates. I don't remember that. And since you can't order them anymore, I don't even know if they show those options. But there's a little bit more of a personalization. And see, this is I think it comes with all three options as well. You get the leather bracelet, leather strap, and rubber strap on top of the full bracelet. So that's another point, Chapek. The dial design is a little less interesting, the pattern, to me at least, but I think ultimately, it looks cool. And
Is that how would you say, a digital print, or is that like actual carbon fiber?
no, this is not carbon fiber, but it is produced by Metallem, so I think that's actual guilloche.
Hmm.
I don't think it's stamped. Although, again, I would be happy to ask and figure it out, because I know in some models they do use the stamped version, but in this model, I think it is guilloche. Mm. Yeah, so they have a few customization options. I think they entertain a couple of other things as well that they might not necessarily have in their usual wheelhouse, as long as it doesn't go um, way beyond their own visual identity. But I don't actually know um, if they are gonna reopen the ordering process, and when they will actually do that, and in what capacity. Again, will there be so many custom options when it comes back? uh, I have no idea, honestly. But yeah, going back to this OG Hashoki, it's, on the one hand, it is what it is, that certain brands are hit by devaluation, depreciation almost immediately, and much more severely than others. But for those brands, you basically let someone else eat that loss and you shop for them on the secondary market. Eh, for me, that's always been an entry point for the collector. I never considered that to be a bad thing. When people talk about depreciation, I see an opportunity for an enthusiastic collector. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that hash hockey. I think it's a little different, but both of their have their virtues. So Chapek just basically decided to expand their production, so they are still going to be quite limited in number, but they are going to produce per year. They have built manufacture along with, but Chapek's strategy has been always to use the best supplier, use the expert for every single aspect of the watch that they finally put together. So uh, they basically abide by the old school Swiss system of établissage, right? You know, which means again, you have an, a a brand, an institution like, for example, Audemars Piguet, that depends on a network of different suppliers, which bring in their own expertise when it comes to case making, when it comes to the making of bracelets, when it comes to the producing and decoration of the dials, when it comes to the hands, luminous material. And Chapek is very transparent about it. That was, they were making 200 watches. So now they're expanding production, still probably won't make more than 500 to 1,000 watches per year. Um, but that's their production model. Whereas Parmigiani, as I was talking through the establishment of the Sandoz Family Foundation and what they built in Fleurier, in the town of Fleurier, they have basically an entire vertically integrated system. So Parmigiani produces more watches and they have more control over every aspect of their production because the movement manufacturer is theirs, even though it produces movements for others as well, including Hermes. The dial maker is theirs, the case maker is theirs, so on and so forth. So
I will
they are
say
more.
this, so Parmigiani, when they do an exclusive, I hear like it's legitimately exclusive. They don't botch it like Grand Seiko or Omega, where they make, oh, and it's an exclusive. Here's 100,000 units. Um, so their last exclusive was 10 pieces only, and one dealer was given one piece. So they, there was no dealer that had two of them on hand. They were distributed one dealer at a time. So it seems like Parmigiani actually understands the concept of an actual limited edition or exclusive. And I was talking to the rep, and he said there was one previously before this last one. He said, I believe that one was 8 pieces, and he said we never got one, but it seems like I said, Parmigiani, when they make something exclusive, it actually is exclusive.
Um, well, I mean, also, that I highlighted the vertical integration in terms of their manufacture and comparing that to Chapek, again, which only makes a few hundred watches as we speak per year, and which won't, in the short term at least, be more than 1,000 watches. I don't want to present or paint Parmigiani Fleurier as some sort of corporate giant, right? I think at the end of the day, they still make less than 2,000 watches per year. So even when something is not marked limited edition specifically, you're still getting a pretty exclusive touch and a pretty exclusive brand to begin with. Perhaps not compared to the Chapex, Laurent Ferriers, and Romain Gauthiers of this world. Certainly not to the extent of a Roger Smith or Daniel Roth working on his own these days. But yeah, you're still, tapping into a brand that knows the value of every single watch that leaves their manufacturer, even though they have also perfected this ecosystem in Fleurier where everything is vertically integrated, that they don't depend on anyone else. And that was, of course, a great difficulty for during the pandemic, one might assume, right? Because they were getting everything from somewhere else. The dials from Metallem,
China.
the leather straps from Jean Rousseau. It's just they just started making their in-house movements for that particular watch for the Antarctique. So, in a way, they are just hitting their stride as well. So that can be actually a good thing about Chapek, because Parmigiani has been around for decades and they have barely started making a splash, whereas Chapek already started stirring things up, and they're just about hitting their stride. And it might be a good moment to invest in them in a way. It might be a good moment to buy into that brand by getting one of their watches, because they do have a lot of appealing designs. I like their chronographs as well. I think the line goes by the name Faubourg de Cracovie, which was where Chapek set up his workshop, I think, when he split from Patek. Um, I love their dress watches that I just showed, Quai de Berg. Let's pull those up as well. And I captured people, and I know it's not the most piece of design, maybe too close for comfort for me in terms of drawing comparisons with Patek. But at the end of the day, I think it's still a great piece of design. It has elements that are unique to it. And if for whatever reason that turns you off from the Antarctique, Chapek still has an entire catalog of very exciting pieces and designs that might have some appeal to you, like their chronographs that are exhibited here, Faubourg de Cracovie. And a lot of them have beautiful dials, whether it's Aventurine or one of those flanqué dials that are produced by a mix of stamping, uh, engine turning, and enamel baking. And finally, also their dress watches that have these wonderful hand-wound movements, and again, gorgeous dials, and a very appealing classic design. And again, different case sizes available almost across the line. They have almost always a model that's marked at the end with an S. If somehow that is more up your alley, more to your taste. We can take a look at this as well, Mookie. But yes, I'm a huge fan of Chapek, honestly. If we'll see. Maybe I don't know, maybe I might go for something like this at a certain point in time. There are not many brands that I would consider that are contemporary, that are still available. I'm a vintage guy through and through. I don't have a watch that's any younger than 20 years old. And that's my reverso right here, which is basically the quintessential grandpa watch, quintessential old man's watch. So it is what it is. But if I were to consider something new, fresh out of the box, I would most certainly go with something like Chapek or Parmigiani or Chopard. Um, something that I think that is unique enough, rare enough, and still established and recognizable enough. It is what it is. It does uh, give you a lot of these brand names do give you a certain equity in a way, right? That's why for years Archie Luxury was screaming at you, Rolex Steel Sports, right? Because there are known quantities in the market that you can trust. And when you step out into the unknown, when you start venturing a little bit out of the comfort zone, it still might be preferable to go for recognizable names that give you still a little bit of a peace of mind down the line. And I think I would certainly put um, Chopard and Parmigiani in that line, especially if you buy them well, if you buy them at the right price. On the secondary market, a lot of these brands provide very good value. And Chapek is actually, for what they offer, just like Parmigiani Fleurier, for what they offer, they are not extremely expensive. They're certainly not overpriced at retail either. They are expensive. That's still a lot of money for a single watch, but that is the league they're in as well. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. We are used to Paris. We're used to Paris. So let's take a look at what Mookie was saying. But before, the dial textures are beautiful on the Chapex, a bit more dressy, classical styling. I like the modern, clean, technical aesthetic of the PFs, I think he's saying. Yes, I think Chapek, when it comes to the Antarctique, I think they are the sportier one. And that partly to design, but also partly to the fact that they have, how shall I put it, basically a lot more luminous material on the dial. But I think even the size and shape of the index markers play a part in it, and even the design of the hands. So Antarctique is a little bit more sporty, but line by line, the entire product line compared between the two brands, I completely agree. I think Chapek has more of a classical inspiration that is, of course, a continuation in a way of um, the design language of Chapek for pocket watches, whereas Parmigiani Fleurier is actually a much more modern brand, even though it continues the traditions of uh, watchmaking craft. It certainly takes a little bit more of a liberty when it comes to their design language, from the skeletonized hands to the case design, the italicized lugs. It's just a more daring approach. And in a way, it's more multidimensional as well. And I think this is a beautiful design too. Yeah. Tonda PF's chronograph version is quite great too. And it kind of splits the difference between classical design and sporty dynamism, right? Because if Tonda GT veers too much into that sporty realm for you, you can stay within the aesthetic boundaries of the Tonda PF and go with something like this. Of course, this is a little more expensive compared to the Tonda GT chronograph. Maybe let's see on the alligator strap. Oh no, this is precious metal case anyways. Yeah, you're talking about $9,000 basically for that design and for the full stainless steel bracelet. But it is a different watch, it's not just an additional bracelet. The case design by and large is the same, but the dial is very different. You're not getting the annual calendar on this one, so that's a little bit of a drawback. But you're still getting the micro rotor movement, which has a great power reserve. Actually, you're still getting the 5 hertz chronograph movement, the higher beat version, 36,000 oscillations, semi-oscillations per hour. Whereas with the Tonda GT, the high frequency caliber is only available for the precious metal versions. Otherwise, you're getting the full rotor, self-winding caliber, 4 hertz with a 45-hour power reserve. You have to step up to the big league, so to speak, with precious metal on gold for the higher frequency movement, which is in this case still full rotor, but has again the increased power reserve still. So we lost Meech there. I really wanted to have him for this, but the surprises have come in. I think I will do a little special video for them, but the Seiko 5 Rowing Blazer collaboration, the Jack Carlson, Eric Wind collaboration, has resulted in these beautiful pieces that come with that special box that takes after the Royal Artillery regimental stripe, this deep navy blue with burgundy zigzag. I think it's a great little tin box element. I love it. And we're going to have a little bit of a giveaway action. And this is going to be for the first month. We're going to start with this. Season appropriate orange dial. Comes on the first, on the full bracelet, of course. Untouched, unworn. The Dress KX case. And also, of course, with an extra NATO strap as well, which in this case is kind of very deep dark green, kind of a racing green with a baby blue double stripe. I think these are really gorgeous watches, great pieces of design, have that beautiful Seiko vibe, uh, made in Japan. And unlike most US markets Seiko 5s, these have the bilingual day indicator in English and Japanese, right? Most other US market Seiko 5s will have the English French combination. I am. I got the full set today. Hopefully, I will still have one after all, but I will have 4 of these to give away for each month. We will start with the orange and go from there. And the conditions are going to be very simple. I'm going to make an Instagram post to announce it. So let me send you the link to follow me on Instagram. But the outline should be very simple. You should follow me on Instagram. You should be subscribed to me on YouTube. And when I post the announcement for the giveaway, I will ask you to tag 2 people with a comment on that message, and you will be entered to the giveaway. And once the month is up, once the month of November is up, there will be a drawing of a random number, and the person who is assigned that number will be the new owner, will be outlined and officially announced once I get around to posting it on Instagram and posting a video of it on YouTube as well. But it's going to be basically like this. Put a comment there. You will tag 2 of your friends, encouraging them to follow me on Instagram and subscribe on YouTube. And you will send me an email proving that you are following me on Instagram and you are subscribed to me on YouTube, by which you will be assigned a number. And once your number is drawn, of course, you'll still need to remain subscribed to me on Instagram and YouTube, and you will get your watch sent to your US address, and it will be completely free. But once again, you don't have to be a US resident for it, but I'm not going to send any watches abroad for this competition, so you might as well get around to it now if you need drop shipping place or address on US soil. But there you are. These are the initial conditions. These are the terms. So best of luck to all of you. First up will be the orange. There we are. Right, you still have the warranty card and everything. You have the beautiful custom tin box, and you get the Seiko 5 limited edition Rowing Blazers Dress KX with that extra. And you will benefit from the good taste of Jack Carlson and Eric Wind. And ultimately, you'll make me really happy by helping me expand this community. And I hope I will bring you some joy for the holiday season by gifting you a new watch. So it benefits everyone. Ooh, buenos días,
Buenos días,
el
buenos
famoso
días,
profesor.
el famoso, no profesor.
And how are you doing?
All right, all right. I in another country today,
And
but
you're having some morning coffee or breakfast.
yes, yes, necessary. It's necessary because of course, when you travel, you don't sleep well, and so you wake up half asleep. So you need a lot of coffee. I need at least a lot of coffee.
Me too. I mean, when even when I don't, I need a lot of coffee. So
Oh, of course, of course, of course. Yeah, I mean, nice, beautiful place. I have to say, not bad.
where are you allowed to say where you are?
Yeah, I can show you. Maybe you guys you can figure it out. Let me see.
It's like yesterday.
Yeah.
We have to
Well,
take a
this is
guess
the
again.
hotel, but will you take a guess again? But I mean, you're an expert, and you have expert viewers, so you can see kind of where I could be. Um,
I don't know, Professor. I don't know anything about these things.
yeah. Well, okay. I mean,
What do
he's
you
a
say?
tall building. Swimming pool, nice swimming pool.
Nice. I don't
And
know. I'm lost. Wha- What's going on? Are we? Um, okay, Professor. I muted you for a second because it's very choppy and we're losing you kind of. So let's see. Maybe it's a little better now. The signal is, I think, very very bad
ah,
where you stepped out now. So it's a little difficult. Can you hear me? Mm. No, it's not working, Professor. It's not working. Maybe we should have you back in your seat. That was great. That was better. No, that was much better. Yes, sir. Hello. No. All right, Professor. Let's take you back to your seat so you can enjoy your coffee and we can hear you again. Not really working. Muki has a very interesting perspective on this. Doha, he says, and then terrible hotel Wi-Fi, so perhaps it's Turkey. Because it's bad Wi-Fi. All right. We lost you, Professor. It's a disaster. So let's take you back to your seat and get you back on live. I don't know what happened. Yeah, that sucks. We lost Professor. Well, I hope he comes back. I hope he comes back. We need him desperately. We need him desperately. Let's see. I was trying to post a link. Well, Professor was giving us a tour, but Professor is gone. I need to get back to Mukis's take cover. I don't think he is. I don't think Professor is threatened in any way, but unfortunately, it's not particularly going well either. Okay. Well, he will be back. In the meantime, do you want me to show other colors, any of the other Seikos from the set? I don't want to disrupt them in any way because they will be gifts to other people, so I'm not gonna take them out and touch them too much with my grubby hands and wear them like some gray market dealers do to other people's watches, wear them around for insurance purposes, of course, allegedly. But let's do that. Yeah, maybe until the professor comes back, if he's coming back. This is actually my favorite. Um, Hopefully, I will have one of these with me at the end. This is Azure, as they call it, also presented as sky blue in English. It's certainly not Tiffany blue, as Jack has said, which I like. It's and it comes with this red NATO strap with a yellow line running through it, which adds a little bit of a different color into the scheme. I think this is my favorite. I think this is the unique one. Again, you have your warranty card. You can register it for yourself. This is going to be down the line, probably January. I think it will be. This is going to be the watch in January, the blue. Streisand effect. Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly. Well, Foucault had something akin to that description in his history of sexuality. He talks about the Victorian era and how, in fact, the whole atmosphere of censure on sexuality, on any open societal discussion and consideration of sexuality, has basically, in fact, triggered a proliferation of discourse on sexuality. So he calls it an incitement to discourse. In this case, that's what happened basically with that idea that this is decidedly not Tiffany blue. When you say not Tiffany blue, everyone's mind goes to that. But I think this is a very interesting one as well. Like a nice light. The Grinch, maybe too light of a green for the Grinch, but in that combination with purple, with the double black stripe, it makes me think of that. I like this one too. This is probably for December. So for this month, it's going to be the pumpkin, the orange. For December, it's going to be the green. For January, it's going to be the blue. Key lime. Yeah, I love key lime pie. Key lime is a great name for this color. This color right here. Oh, the cards. I think they Mookie, I like what they did with it actually, because you see they could have gone with predictable, with basic colors, with what would immediately go for it. But you know, we are in year 2022. Everyone by this time has their favorite NATO strap supplier online. So you can easily get one of the predictable colors. You can easily get one of the one of the more expected choices, you know. Like, for example, of course, the orange one could have come on an orange strap, could have come with a black with orange stripe. The key lime one could have come simply with a deep red, perhaps. It could have come with, like, again, a dark brown. It could have come, you know, it could have come with perhaps even a darker shade of green that would perhaps go with it. But close it properly, which is probably a good thing. And finally, we have the most standard one, but the one that sold out the earliest and the easiest, and that's the black with the nautical flags. And this, in a way, has a more predictable strap that comes with it, kind of like a rainbow stripe on black, which matches with the color scheme. And that will probably be for February, where we celebrate the first anniversary of this channel. And it will be a nice way to wrap up the giveaway. And we'll see if it has any you know, any immediate benefits to the channel. If it does, that's great. If we manage to expand the community by this giveaway, that would be great for my channel. But hey, worst case scenario, I'll be able to gift 4 nice watches for numbers of, and that's great. You know, that would be an honor for me, because again, as I say in the in the description of the channel, this hobby has given me so much and given me so much joy. If I can give a little bit back to it, a little bit back to the community, that's more than enough for me to. But if we can do that in a way that would benefit the channel, that would encourage people to reach out and tell friends about the channel and help me gain more subscribers, gain more followers on Instagram, that will be amazing. Professor, hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Professor?
Yes,
All right. Okay. You're back.
I'm back.
Great. So did you see any of the watches that I was showing? They just came in today earlier.
A little bit. Yes, I did. A little bit. So I think one of your viewers needs a watch because he got it right where I am.
No, we are not giving away like that, unfortunately. Unless you wanna,
Yeah.
unless you wanna,
Wait.
and then I will send it to him.
No, he'll pay us.
No. Which one is the Doha?
No, the other one.
Boise, Idaho.
Boise, Idaho. I have nothing to do with the potato country.
Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, JB, unfortunately, you have not won since that wasn't the terms of the giveaway, but that's a great guess and you got it right.
Has he been to Abu Dhabi? Does he know?
Perhaps. I don't know. I haven't been to Abu Dhabi. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's correct. I mean, here. I think the link is better. So here in the room. So I think you can see Abu Dhabi. So you can see that this is Abu Dhabi because it's Emirates Palace, and this is very iconic. So and these are the two big towers. I mean, next to me, so they're kind of
Nice.
very very nice. So it is Abu Dhabi, and in the distance you see some of the landmark towers of the place. So it's very nice. It's very nice. As I was
Awesome.
leaving the breakfast room, I was told by the lady. She said, "By the way," she started talking to me in Farsi. I said, "I don't understand." She said, "I heard you speaking in Farsi." I go, "No." I said, "Where are you from?" She said, "Tajikistan." I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, my country is not a stan, but during the last 12 years, it's close to being a stan."
Nice. That's an interesting approach. Yeah. The look, I mean, it's yeah, actually people don't realize because they assume that Tajikistan, since it's a Central Asian country, they don't immediately know they actually speak a dialect of Persian as their primary language. In Afghanistan too, the official language is Dari, which is of course a Persian dialect. Um, yeah, but no, Professor, when I see you, I also assume that you might speak Persian, but you know, unfortunately not. You speak a lot of other languages. Okay, Yeah, I knew that there was something wrong, Professor, because I was feeling like I'm talking to my imaginary friends again. You are frozen. You're frozen. Um, we lost the professor again. Damn. Gone Dog, good morning. It's one of the best parts of the stream right around this moment where the UK seems to be rising. You seems to be getting up, and it's always a pleasure to wish you a good morning. Wave across the pond. It's nice to have you on board. Peeping Time says upvoted for Professor. And Jake Brooks says flown through Dubai, but I met folks that live in Abu Dhabi. And Basil says Professor speaks robot. Yes, he might not speak Farsi, but he speaks the language of the robots. Is it better, Professor? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Now it's better.
What does it mean, robots? Language of the
Because
robots.
when your signal starts fading out, your voice it becomes something like so. It comes through somewhat robotic because it's very choppy and kind of mixed with a telephone signal or something like that. That's the closest analogy that comes to my mind. I'm not very good with technology, so I don't really have the language to describe it even. So are you still going to be for a long time, or are you coming back to the old country anytime soon?
No, I should be returning. I've completed. I'm completing today my journey in the 4 countries
Okay.
I visited.
Wow. It's living the life, Professor. That's not too bad.
Yes, people think that I have a enjoyable time, but between being half constipated, overeating, not sleeping, and having to fly around and be harassed by customs, border patrol, and making sense in official meetings, yes, it's not bad.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, yeah, when I have more than 2-3 meetings a day, I kind of start shutting off towards the end of the day, so I can imagine.
Yeah, you need to be pleasant in all of the meetings. They offer you tea, coffee, and dates and cookies, and you need to be pleasant and nice and polite, and then you overeat, you overdrink coffee, then you don't drink a lot of water, and it's just a big mess, when you travel anywhere that takes you outside of your normal daily routine, and it's not a pleasant trip. If it's a business trip, it's hell. People think that oh, it's okay. Professor goes around seeing countries. Yeah, I do, but then I have to make sense because they are in their own country, very comfortable, and I'm visiting, and I need to make good sense. You can fly, of course, first class or business class, or even be in the company of others where they have the ability to fly you in a private jet. But this is all bullshit, if you ask me.
Well, okay. I mean, look, I'll put it like this: I've never flown in a private jet, but I think for the most part, I don't like flying anyway. So for me, it's
Yeah,
miserable.
yeah,
If I can fall asleep, it's fine. It doesn't make a difference for me whether you're in business class or first
yeah.
class or whatever else. If I can't fall asleep, doesn't matter what class of plane I am. I'm pissed. I'm frustrated, and I don't enjoy it. And also, at the end of the day, I think ultimately I'm just, whether it's not an intense form of fear, but I guess I am afraid of flying at some level. So I don't really enjoy it unless I pass out after the first hour. It gets very long. And since I have moved to Los Angeles, all the flights to places that I like to go, in the Middle East, in Europe, are
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
long when they're direct flights. And I don't like transfers either. So it is what it
Yeah,
is.
it's
I'm not
hellish. It
I'm not a big
hellish.
fan.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, people think, now I'll board the plane. It's going to be a long flight. It's going to be 8 hours. They'll feed you. They'll they'll have every nice wine and liquor you want. You will tend to overeat and overdrink. Then you'll dehydrate because you shouldn't be drinking alcohol on a flight because the impact is like double and triple as if if you were to drink normally in on the ground. So you get dozed off and then you kind of have you fall asleep and then you wake up, they tell you here you are, and then you need to be okay when you arrive. Okay, so if you do it during your business trip, all of that, you feel completely lost. Then you have 4, 5, 6 hours difference. You wake up in the middle of the night not knowing where you are, and of course with age, it's a burdensome thing eventually. I mean, some people do it nonstop. I used to do it nonstop for many years. I would clock upwards of 250,000 miles a year in my previous jobs, and it was crazy. And I had piled up so many miles that my family would fly first class every year anywhere around the world. But so what? Big deal. And you get to sit there and okay, then what? That's not a life. I consider it like you, flying not to be a pleasant experience. Not that I'm afraid, but some people say, "Oh my God, you're so great, famoso Lord Professor greatness bullshit thing." And I say, "Yeah, come and do what I do and appear in front of a audience or officials trying to make sense." And it's not easy because they're not tired and you're tired and you need to uh, cover that tiredness with coffee, and it catches up on you eventually. When I go back, I'll have
Right.
to relax, but then my day begins on a Sunday. So when everybody is relaxed, my day begins Sunday because my relations start on a Sunday because the working day is a Sunday where I do a lot of work. So anyway, it is what it is. What
Right.
can we do?
I mean, they take Friday off, so they work on Sunday. It makes sense.
Yeah,
No?
yeah. I have no time off because Friday is off in some parts of the Middle East and Saturday, but in other parts of the Middle East, Sunday is a working day. In Egypt, it's a working day. In Saudi Arabia, it's a working day. In Bahrain, Kuwait, it's a working day. In the UAE, working day is Monday to Friday. So, go figure. Anyway,
Professor. Well, you have a lot of work to do today, or is it a free day for you?
no, no, today is I'm okay because I just have to organize myself. I had one meeting earlier. Now I'm gonna get ready to prepare my stuff so I can take the 2 p.m. flight and go back to the old country. So,
Nice. So maybe
and
then
my
you will have a little bit of time to rest, no?
yeah,
Right? Do you have a little bit of a rest in the UK when you're back, or do you have to go back to teaching right away?
No. Well, I have no, next week is a busy day because I have to meet my publisher, um, and I have a serious meeting on Wednesday with him because I have proposed an important series in economics, and on Tuesday the university board is meeting to discuss the series. It's a board that approves or disapproves the publications that they
Mm,
do. And so on
okay.
Wednesday, I meet the publisher, and they will announce what they do with these series that I have proposed. So it's important
So
next week, and
it's full weight, if nothing else, huh?
yeah, and then I'll have to prepare for another trip at the end of next week, back to the region.
To the region. Okay, not to Switzerland. When are you going to Switzerland next? I'm looking forward to those.
So there was a chance to visit Geneva on Monday,
Mm,
Monday or Wednesday. The Monday was cancelled, so now maybe Wednesday, but I'm not sure. Geneva probably will be January now. Yeah,
mm,
January or hopefully, and that's more certain, second week of February. I have to be in Geneva for sure.
mm.
That's a standard meeting. That's a standard meeting that I have to attend. Um, yeah, I've seen a lot of comments about the release, the Rolex release. A lot of bashfulness and oh, what did they do? Who's gonna buy it? And I agree. The release on the Deep Sea Challenger again. It comes. Look, Rolex has the capacity and ability to announce anything they want. People don't understand this. Like Patek Philippe, they stand and they sit on the highest point of the Himalayas, and they can announce and produce anything they want, and the market will take it. Believe me. They wanted to announce, and it's not a competition thing. People say it's competition between Omega and Rolex. Rolex doesn't care what Omega does. Omega cares what
I mean,
Rolex does.
yeah, I kind of got exasperated by that, but then I realized, it's usually people who are really heavily invested in Omega in some way, like emotionally almost. So there's no reason to argue with people who insist on that, because look, I mean, if anything, the ultra deep or whatever they call their diver watches, I think the fact that they released them in 2022 rather than 2021 or 2023 uh, has more to do with the 10th anniversary of the Deep Sea Challenge than the other way around. Because people say now, oh, Omega released the Ultra Deep in March, so they got into Rolex's head that Rolex was forced to release something with a higher depth rating. Whereas, of course, it's the 10th anniversary of the Deep Sea Challenge, and they basically reproduced that watch that they have done 10 years ago to actually undertake that 11,000 challenge. So it's nothing theoretical or nothing competitive with Omega per se. But Professor, there are two reasons. Again, one, on the one hand, you have Omega fanboys who will never uh, consider it from a rational perspective. And the second thing is, watch YouTube is full of people who don't have any historical perspective whatsoever on issues they are talking about. So it's go beyond 4, 5, 6 months. They don't know anything that has happened 6 months, more than 6 months ago, and they won't remember what they're talking about today 6 months from now. That's the kind of timeline they're working at. You got stuck again, Professor. You're frozen. No, not any better. For whatever reason, once every so often you get into this mode, where your picture freezes and your voice is very choppy. The sound is very choppy.
Bad connection.
It's a little better now, right now.
Okay, maybe I'll be off camera so you can hear me.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know
Yes,
if you heard me. Did you hear what I
yeah, I
said?
heard you.
Okay.
Yes, I did. I hear everything you say. Certainly, Rolex doesn't take a view of a 6-month view. I mean, they have been researching and developing this watch for quite some time, and they don't really care if it's 50 millimeters and 26 millimeters thick. They don't care. This is an exhibition kind of only watch. It will go for very few people. It will be released in few numbers, and they just want to send the message that we can do this as well. And whoever wants to buy it, welcome. Here you are, and that's about it. They have plenty of other watches which people will line up to buy them. And if 95% of the population doesn't buy this watch, one, because they cannot afford it, two, because they cannot wear it, they don't care.
Well,
because it's all about the technical feat, the technical aspect of the accomplishment.
Right.
The Deep Sea, Deep Sea is a difficult watch to wear to begin with. I mean, the James Cameron watch is a difficult watch to wear.
Yeah,
It's not a daily wearer. You can't.
Think, to be honest, it's compared to the Deep Sea Challenge watch that went down into the Mariana Trench in 2012. Of course, it's more streamlined and thinner, etc. But that doesn't say much because it's still 50 millimeters. It's still 23 millimeters thick. So ultimately, it is really a collector's item, and it really, to me, it only appeals to collectors have a certain cast of mind, in the sense, like, they really deeply associate with that history and legacy of Rolex in deep sea diving and saturation diving, all the way back from 1953 through Submariner, through the Comex divers, through the sea dwellers, all the way into the James Camerons of today. So it's the Captain Cousteaus, Captain Picards, all these legends that make that wove into that mythology of Rolex as the maker of dive watches. So I understand what kind of appeal the watch might have. I understand how it can have its own customer and audience, and I also know that as a segment, it makes sense within the Rolex lineup, and I think it couldn't have been a better occasion. There couldn't have been a better occasion to introduce titanium into the Rolex lineup because of the sheer size of this watch. So finally, you have an excuse to make a full titanium watch as Rolex. And I know that material is going to be used eventually, sooner or later, in other watches of the Rolex lineup, of the Rolex catalog. So I think it makes sense in a lot of ways, just not in a way that might have an effect on the average Rolex collector.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. It's okay. Every watch cannot be a success. Every watch is not going to be widely accepted by everyone. I mean, and it is what it is. Some people will buy it. Believe you me, some people will wear it, even if they
Mm.
wear it for half an hour. They will still have the ability to put it on, and it will be a showy piece. It's a heavy piece. It's as heavy as wearing a gold Submariner. It's around the same kind of weight proportions.
Mm. I mean, look, I mean, that's why saying it finally makes sense to have a watch fully in titanium in the Rolex lineup. I mean, imagine if it were in stainless steel. Imagine how much James Cameron watch that was strapped on the Challenger Deep must have weighed.
Yeah, I saw somebody yesterday in a meeting wearing the Deep Sea, and he
Mhm.
was wearing it on his right wrist. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, how come how do you wear this every day?" He said, "Yeah, man, I wear this every day. This is my daily wear, and I love it, and it's heavy and big, and I enjoy it, and I bang it around, and nothing happens to the watch, and it's like a brick wall." So there will be people who are going to buy it and wear it, and they'll cough up the $26,000, and that's okay. They'll pay close to what people pay for a gold watch, gold Rolex, 26, 36. If you have 26,000 bucks, you have 36,000 bucks. Doesn't make a big difference. So, people will still line up and buy it, and it's Rolex saying, "We did this. Here it is. You like it? Fine. You don't like it? We're not telling you to buy it." Like the Yacht Master 2. It's a big watch.
Mm.
People bought it at the beginning, then, people stopped buying it. I've seen it around in full gold version, both yellow and white. It's not a very popular watch, but still, it's a Rolex. Yeah, I don't see the functionality of the complication for the Yacht Master 2. I mean, it's completely nonsense. The 10-minute counter, but Rolex is Rolex again. Does it make sense? Some of the pieces, no.
Absolutely. Um, well, I mean, look, it's really like beating a dead horse at this point because I think I had like a whole broadcast about it where I just talked about it from a historical perspective first, and then also from
Yeah,
the contemporary perspective as well. And again, to sum up, I think it made sense for them to really set it apart from everything that they have released in the Watches and Wonders, because they consider it a novelty in the best and worst sense of the word. It wasn't just another new release for Rolex. It was really a way to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the Deep Sea Challenge, of James Cameron's expedition into the Mariana Trench. And ultimately, they also, of course, wanted to claim that record, which they actually broke by having made this watch in 2012. They wanted to bring it into serial production and make a point about it. I don't deny that. And ultimately, I think again, it's a great excuse to use titanium where it really makes sense. And now, we'll see titanium more widely across the catalog of Rolex. I'm not saying suddenly you will have a whole lineup of titanium watches, but I'm sure that we will see titanium beyond this 50 millimeter uh, case Sea Dweller in the near future.
yeah, yeah. You will see it. You will see it.
Jake Brooks says, "Put your pizza out of the oven and slice right there." I don't even know what it means, but I guess with yeah, you can use it to slice pizza. I think the bezels edges, that coin edging of the bezel. Can it slice through pizza? You think in these dimensions?
Yeah, I think you can use it for all kinds of things. If you run out of bullets, you can throw it. If you want to use it as a hammer, you can use it as a hammer as well. The glass could be a bulletproof glass. Not sure how you're gonna protect yourself, but I am sure it's a bulletproof glass, the thickness of it. No,
It's a tool watch. It's a real tool watch.
yeah, it's a tool. It's the tool of tools.
All right, Professor, easy, easy.
It's the tool of tools.
Yeah.
It's all-purpose tool.
We don't wanna anger the overlords too much,
The overlords, yes, sir. We're
right?
just the lords, not the overlords.
That's right. That's right. That the overlords are in Geneva, and um, they're they're jealous, they're vengeful, they're all powerful. Like you said, they can do whatever they want. You don't want them to eliminate us from this little patch we have established in the horological universe.
Yes, but it's okay. We don't say anything bad. I mean, we just said it's a tool of tools. Um, but no, I think back to the basic principle. I think we said it, and you said it, and I said it many months ago, that they will use whatever Tudor produces as a benchmark and a platform for what Rolex begins to introduce. And the
Mhm.
point made about titanium, the point now made that titanium will be used more widely in other iterations in the coming years. It's not going to be a one-off thing for Rolex. Whether they produce the Yachtmaster in titanium, that has been, the obvious debate. But remember, what you think, guys, is obvious. Rolex does the opposite. So everybody was saying Yachtmaster.
It's Professor, you're cutting again. I don't know
Again,
what. Yeah.
the powers don't want me to speak here. They
Um,
don't want me to
but yeah,
connect
no,
to the real
that was
world.
the point. The day before the release, I was just talking about how like you keep repeating to me, how a lot of times that is the platform. Tudor is the platform for Rolex to experiment things that is not in their convention, that is not in their playbook. And ultimately, when something succeeds and sticks, and no one can deny the fact that Palace been a great success for the brand, right? Of course, Black Bay 58 is the flagship, is the most selling, best selling, I should say, model of the brand. Probably, I don't have a look into their books, honestly. But the Pelagos has been a great success. They know that titanium fits at least the tool watch aspect and vision of that model, and it just made sense to carry it over into the Rolex lineup at this level, and it will trickle down in the same way that Pelagos left-hand drive somehow found its way in a transmuted fashion with GMT Master 2. And I wouldn't be surprised in next year or the year after that we see something with a ceramic case in the Rolex lineup.
The Rolex
Again,
experience.
Professor. Okay, you came back just now with the Rolex experience. What were you saying before then?
And also, I was saying that Tudor is going to use the Rolex experience on its watches. So it will not be surprising if they introduce ceramic bezels.
Okay, I was talking about ceramic cases that Rolex might introduce in one model or so, in the maybe 1 or 2 years down the line, since Tudor has used it. I don't know. Maybe I'm speculating a little too much.
Yeah, but I was saying that Rolex is going to offer a platform to Tudor as well, and they will introduce certain models that Rolex has. So it's not going to be a one-way direction. It will be also the reverse. So it could be that in the coming years, you will see a bezel that has ceramic on it in the Tudor line.
But then again, I'm sure it will still be with a little bit of a difference, because ultimately they wouldn't want too much overlap between Rolex and Tudor, would they? Pardon me.
No, but it is obvious what is going on between the two. I don't think they're keeping it that big of a secret. And eventually the Tudor line will have to increase its pricing because it doesn't also want to be the poor brother of Rolex. They will have to slowly and gradually increase prices and justify the increase on the components and technology inserted in that
Right.
watch. So maintaining the $3,000 to $5,000 mark is okay, but they need to also move into a little bit of a higher platform as Rolex keeps on increasing its price range.
But I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not a. How shall I put this? It's not very revolutionary for Tudor to use ceramic, because the Pelagos line, for example, has ceramic bezels across the board, right? So you are saying that we might see it in the Black Bay range too, perhaps. Is that what you meant?
Correct.
I
Correct.
see. Yeah, that's a shame. I actually like Tudor's being a little different from what Rolex has to offer, and I'm absolutely not a fan of ceramic as a material for bezel inserts. But it is what it is. It has caught on. It has caught
And
on.
I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you why. Because if Tudor is properly utilized as a platform for many of the innovations
Yeah.
that Rolex adopts, one of the challenges of Rolex today is that the bezels or bezels, as you say, have to be better adjusted for the coloring, which still looks awkward, especially on the two-toned watches. Other than the black, the blue and red is still not properly developed. It's an awkward purple pinkish color, and it's as a result of the lack of development that Rolex has not perfected. And I think Tudor needs to help them out on that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, I want to get very excited about this. I'm sure some fans of Tudor watches would get too excited about this, but to me, I was talking with actually someone a few days ago about what makes me so attracted about vintage watches and even neo vintage stuff from the 90s, where you still had dials that were not extremely stabilized, so they still fade and matte out, where you still have tritium on the dial, so that basically expires and mellows out and turns into a different shade of cream. Whereas in today's production, unless watches are produced with this fake patina, which 90% of the time looks what it is, fake and not very aesthetically pleasing, watches are made to be stable, made to remain timeless in the worst sense of the word. They don't age. Ceramic bezel inserts are made not to age. So whether they get the color right or not, uh, that will be the color that you get stuck with for the rest of the watch's existence. Same thing with superluminova. It's not the kind of material that fades. Maybe a century down the line, it might get weaker, but it's not going to change color in the way that tritium or radium did by disintegrating, essentially. Um, so ultimately, I think, I want my watch to not only tell the time now, but tell a little bit about the time it has spent in the previous decades. New watches don't do that, period. And whether Tudor will have ceramic bezels or not absolutely doesn't interest me. I mean, because it makes them less appealing just by that introduction already to me. Um, Sorry, maybe I have too strong of an opinion when it comes to this, but I just don't care for it. Ah, man. Day for connection today. It's whenever you have
It's very
something
bad,
important to say, it gets cut.
man.
Okay, say it again.
So,
Now,
honey,
now I can hear you better.
okay, yeah, yeah. I see what you say, and it could be that not the entire line will be introducing, not the entire Tudor line will be introducing a ceramic bezel. It could be one or two of these lines
Hmm.
going into
Yeah,
the ceramic bezel way. And I think they're very conscious of what you say, that they do like to have this kind of oldish, vintage look. They don't want to be all brand ceramic, new, clean, with all of the bells and whistles of the Rolex lineup. No, I don't think
yeah,
they will go that way, but I think they will develop one or two models that will have this ceramic introduction beyond the Pelagos that will then help them with some of the issues concerning the coatings that they're using.
yeah, yeah. Again, I should perhaps put my money where my mouth is and get one of those Black Bay 58s before they ruin them for me. But yeah, until then, it's by and large, that's my main thing about Rolex today. Beyond the proportions, which to me, again, it's just, you don't mess with the ideal. I understand why they do something different in this day and age, and I actually appreciate it. I like the fact that they exist, while knowing that they are not for me. But yeah, the entire approach to watchmaking, in this day and age, And I understand because they're making a luxury product now. People expect something different from it. But the fact that everything is made to remain frozen in time, to me, that seems entirely contradictory with what I expect from a mechanical watch on my wrist, which should in fact tell me more than, oh, what time is it now? It should tell me something about history, something about its own history, something about the time that has an effect on it. Like, if it's just scratches, that doesn't seem so appealing to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I can understand. I appreciate, of course.
All right, so guys, we have about 10 more minutes. If you have any questions, if you have any requests, if you want us to address something before I conclude this live stream, feel free to send those questions and requests with a super chat. Otherwise, don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. If you have learned from this show, if you have enjoyed any part of it, it's free to leave a like, and it helps me a great deal. It gives me that little bit of exposure, and I am trying to expand this community. So please, I would be much obliged. Subscribe if you haven't. We're here with Watch Talk on a daily basis, and there's much more content than just live streams too. There are interviews, there are more narrative driven, shorter content. Again, they might be categorized under live streams, but you will see that there are a lot of videos, 5 to 15 minutes, that are much more focused, that either take you through the history of a brand or talk about a newly introduced model, and are really ways to generate more conversation in either case. But feel free to share them with your friends, with your loved ones, and pull more people into this community. And that's what I would appreciate most. If you want to contribute to the channel, the links are there, and they're also pinned on the chat. So feel free to drop something on PayPal or Cash App. If you become a regular contributor on Patreon, and I already have a few people from the community who benefit from this, you'll not only be helping to increase the quality and quantity of content on this channel by allowing me to devote more time to it simply, but you'll also get on a daily basis at least 3 links to great deals on watches. So that's something that you gain just by subscribing on Patreon, which is just $10 a month. And it's not much for about 90 to 100 pointers you will receive per month on a daily basis. I don't think anyone else provides that kind of service in the entire community. So, and none of the links that I sent are watches that I'm selling or that I'm benefiting in any way. And it's something that I simply do for the community. And earlier I have announced, since these have arrived, that I am going to be giving away 4 of these Seiko 5 Rowing Blazer watches that Jack Carlson and Eric Wind designed together. And we are going to start with the orange. Remember, I'm going to do the official Instagram. So follow me on Instagram. I'm dropping the link to the chat now. And I will announce the competition in the next couple of days before the end of the week. and ultimately rules are going to be very straightforward, and for now all you need to do is to remain subscribed to my channel, and follow me on Instagram, and once you follow the directions on the Instagram post, it'll be easy peasy lemon squeezy. Hey, thank you, Big Meech, for that resounding support. Professor, do you have something to add? Professor, are you still there? Left us. Back. And there we go. They're basically all sold out by now, but I have one of each to give away. We're going to start with the orange, with the pumpkin for the month of November. And then we're going to go with the key lime pie for the month of December. For January, we'll give away the blue, and we'll conclude with the black, the original, with the nautical flags as the index markers. I think it will be great for the channel, but in either case, it'll be great for me because I will have this occasion to give something back to the community that has supported me all along. And I look forward to it. So stay tuned. Make sure that you follow me on Instagram. Make sure that you are subscribed here, and you'll be the first to hear about the guidelines for this giveaway. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. And until then, I bid you adieu. Stay safe, stay strong, and follow me for more extent shared passion for wristwatches. Take care.